If you didn't already know, Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, is absolutely crazy, is putting it nicely. And quite frankly, it insults all the people who are actually generally crazy. I don't know how you describe him, quite frankly. This guy is an extreme anarcho-capitalist libertarian, and you may remember when we did that video about him, he even dressed up as a anarcho-capitalist man. Well, unfortunately, he won the Argentinian election and now is following through with many of his crazy demands. And bear in mind, as strange as it is to think, he's only been in charge 6 months. 6 months. And according to some of the new stuff that he's been trying to do to try and improve the situation, again, improve in air quotes, the situation in Argentina, has now resulted in the poverty rate in Argentina spiraling over 50%. And ultimately, I don't think that's where it's going to stop. I do not think this is where it's going to stop. But I do not think the people in Argentina will put up with this lunatic too much longer, because the more you look into like the stories of what he does, the fact that he cloned his dog like 6 times because he loved it that much, and then has a seance to communicate with the original dead dog that he then takes economic advice from. How is this guy president? Like how is this guy allowed to continue as president? But I think it's time we had a bit of a catch up with what's going on in Argentina, especially with this new statistic that's come out that poverty is now well over 50% in a country where that didn't used to be the case. So let's find out what's going on in Argentina. So before we do go more into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Down below, there's the Patreon page, there's the Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below. So let's crack on then into this. Coming from The Guardian, the poverty in Argentina soars to over 50% as Milei's austerity measures now hit hard. So Argentina's poverty rate has soared to almost 53% in the first 6 months of Javier Milei's presidency, offering the first hard evidence of how the hard-right libertarians' tough austerity measures are now hitting the population. The new poverty rate, reported by the government statistics agency on Thursday, is the highest level in over 2 decades, with the country now reeled from a catastrophic economic crisis and means 3.4 million Argentinians have now been pushed into poverty this year. Since taking office in December, the self-described anarcho-capitalist, who campaigned with a chainsaw in hand to symbolize the cuts he would make, has slashed public spending in an effort to now tame the chronic inflation and even eliminate the budget deficit. This isn't going to work. His crazy schemes, everything is just not going to work. You know, if you thought Liz Truss was bad, this is like if Liz Truss became somewhat of a, I don't know, DC Marvel superhero villain. You know, that's what Javier Milei really is. And it's shocking that he's getting away from all this stuff. But this is some of the stuff that he's done. So his administration has frozen pensions, reduced aid to soup kitchens, cut welfare programs, stopped all public work projects, and tens of thousands of public employees have now been fired. He has reduced energy and transportation subsidies and has pushed costs up, and purchasing power has now eroded. It's insane, some of this stuff. And the public transport stuff, especially in Argentina, their capital city is one of the most densest cities in the world. So being able to move around for having a public subsidy for their transport system was incredibly important to a lot of people who lived in that capital. Now that's gone. That's gone permanently. So that will be having a huge effect on hundreds of thousands of people in Argentina's capital. I dread to think what the true costs are going to be at the end of this man's reign. But anyway, Kirsten Sherburn, an expert on Latin America at the London School of Economics and Political Science, said she has never seen such a large jump in the poverty rates, saying that this new economic program is not protecting the poor. The jump is absolutely horrendous. So Milei's cuts, however, have been cheered by the markets, investors, and the International Monetary Fund, to which Argentina owes $43 billion monthly. Inflation has now also decreased from about 26% in December to about 4% in June, where it has now remained, although the annual inflation still remains one of the highest in the world, exceeding over 230%. And here's the thing, these cuts only care about this. Why do they care? Why are they cheering this on? Well, quite frankly, it's because the debt is being serviced, because they are getting debt repayments. Because one of the big things that a lot of people talk about is that you can actually buy debt with the expectation that someone will repay that debt. This is why all these, big companies that have put a lot of money into Argentina that now have bought this debt. Oh, look, we're now being repaid. All this debt that Argentina owes us. Hang anything else, that's all they care about. So Maria Claudine Alzolbos, a community worker from Santa Fe, said that the government had now provoked a situation of desperation, saying, "We are feeling it in the fridge, empty now and unplugged. The money is money really worth absolutely nothing. Where I have 3 jobs and it is still not enough." Now that says it all, that the money is just completely worthless in Argentina. Among those affected is a 33-year-old Catalina, who works for the Ministry of Justice and was told last week she will soon be losing her job. So last week, 2,500 of us were told that we'll be out of a job by the end of this year, except for a handful of, quote, lucky ones who will be offered to continue working the same hours for half the money, she said. I have been looking for another job for months, but there is just no work. I do not know how I'm going to make it. It is frightening. I mean, you'd have thought a ministry like that would need, employees and would be, employing them, because you'd think maybe that opens up to, maybe, I don't know, crime and, corruption if you are doing that type of stuff. It seems a bit, bad for that. Anyway, this continues. Christopher Sabine, another senior fellow for Latin America for the Chatham House, said the economic decline was now inevitable and that controlling inflation pointed to now similar historic crises in both Brazil and Bolivia, but questioned whether Milei's changes will actually work. He said, "This is dangerous territory. The question is, will this belt tightening have any benefit? And what comes next? Can he actually control public sector spending? Can he actually shore up the currency? Without doing that, you've just created poverty." And I agree with him. I don't think he can do any of that. He has no idea what comes next. These libertarians don't. As far as this guy is concerned, and again, libertarian thinking, you cut all this, magic happens. And that's the deadly part of what you are going to see. This guy is going to basically show why libertarian ideology and ideas are just absolutely terrible. And I'm just sorry that Argentina is having to prove the world that these types of people should never, ever be put in power. I'm just sorry that it's you guys. But again, we had our own person like that called Liz Truss, and we're still dealing with the consequences of that. So let's finish this off. So while Milei's popularity ratings have remained high, public support now appears to be waning. Well, I'm not surprised. A survey published on Monday found the drop of almost 15% in September, the steepest now fall during his 9-month administration. Recent polls have now found that worries about inflation have now been overtaken by fears of job loss and poverty. For a country that for a country now that has historically prided itself on being a middle-class nation, this poverty rate is terrible, somebody said. Milei's presidential spokesperson said that the government had, quote, inherited a disastrous situation from previous left-leaning governments. They left us on the brink of being a country with essentially of all its inhabitants poor, said Adore. Any level of poverty is horrendous, and we're doing everything we can so that the situation changes. Argentina might have not been in the best state, prior to Milei, but I think people are going to look back and just go, "Gee, that last administration sure was good compared to what we've got now." But yeah, Milei continues to be absolutely insane and an absolute lunatic, and is going to drive Argentina off a cliff sooner or later. Argentina is just going to, yeah. And I am sorry that you guys have to be the laboratory to show once and for all that libertarianism is a terrible ideology and is not going to work and is never worked, and it's not something we should be putting these people in power for. So, as always, thank you very much. Leave a comment down below, and of course, we'll see you all next time.